Welcome in, special edition, one day late, we apologize, of Who's Got Next. Michigan football recruiting coverage brought to you by Maize Blue Review. We cover Michigan on the On3 network. Get to say that. That's fun. Obviously, all of the recruiting rankings now moving over to Rivals. It's starting to happen. Rivals industry, we're seeing it by August 1st, man. Sorry. I had the YouTube link up and I started hearing myself in stereo. By August 1st, the consensus, the home of recruiting is going to be Rivals. It's going to be incredible once all of that stuff comes together. So we are excited to get into it. Been a wild ride for Michigan football, some commits, some misses. We're here to talk about it and reset the recruiting board as there's a little bit of a lull here in this dead period before things pick up again. I'm joined by our insider at Maize Blue Review, the Australian brother himself, Mr. Aidan Sen. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad.
Not too bad. It's nice and midnight for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in the holidays, so we're chilling.
We were trying to coordinate this because it was a day late. Things were kind of weird. He's like, "Do you want to do it today?" And I'm like, "You mean tomorrow?" And he's like, "I don't know what I have no idea what time it is for you." So yes, Darbo, I am always late. Thank you, sir. That's funny. But yeah, Aidan can always tell us the future because he's way ahead. So that works. All right. But hey, big time commits. Obviously, we're gonna get into talk about a big miss as well and what happened there, what's trending in terms of the wide receiver recruiting board. Things are looking like defensive back now, which is kind of what we expected going into August. A lot of things were going to happen with defensive back. And I know the live viewers might be down on this one because we're a day late and I kind of posted the link late as well. But anybody that's in here, feel free to throw in some questions and we're going to do some Q&A if we can, or otherwise we'll look ahead a little bit to 2027. So let's start with the commits. I think one of the more bizarre recruitments of this cycle, and a lot of Michigan fans didn't realize it until after he committed, and they kind of looked into how the whole thing went down for him. But Michigan landing cornerback Dorian Barney. I love his tape, man. His high IQ player, incredible coverage skills. I've seen some people talk about him at nickel because of his size. I think he's going to be he looks like Mikey Sainer still on the outside to me. Anytime I do that, guys, by the way, I'm not saying he's going to be Mike Sainer still, right? Style of play, right?
Yeah.
But that's a common theme, right? Especially with the secondaries, that versatility when people are like, hey, what position is going to play? I don't know. They want them all to be capable of corner, safety, nickel. But anyway, get into it a little bit. Dorian Barney, quite the ride to get him to Ann Arbor.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have a big cornerback recruiting update today. But
look at that.
In that, Dorian Barney, that's an interesting one. I mean, he decommitted from Alabama earlier this year, January or February, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's committed for a while too.
Yeah, he was committed for a while, and he silently committed to Texas A&M. Penn State got a prediction as well in there. So I think I personally didn't really expect him to make it to that Michigan official visit over Victor's weekend because it looked like he was going to commit to the Aggies and then of course to the Nittany Lions. But that one was an interesting one. I think they made a strong impression on his official visit. His spring visit also went really positively. I think he was in for the spring game. But yeah, he just loved it on campus. I think everyone on that Victor's weekend just loved it on campus. There was just a great vibe overall, which I don't think we'd seen really from any of the earlier official visit weekends. I mean, June 14th and June 6th, obviously, you got some commits, but nothing really like what we saw over the weekend on June 20th. So that was really positive. And as you say, he's a really, really good player, like really savvy, understands the game, I think, really, really well. And only at 6'2", not massively athletic. I mean, he's obviously athletic. He's like a top 100 cornerback recruit, but he's not like that elite athleticism that you see. But he makes plays with his high IQ, as I say, and as you said, and yeah, he's a good football player, I think.
Yeah, we've been Darbo, who's in here right now. We've been talking about a common Harbaughism with some of these recruits has been they're just good football players, right?
Yeah.
He used to say that. I don't necessarily know, like they don't strike you as unbelievable at anything. And
I feel like I'm understating his skill set. Like he's not just a football player, but you know what I mean. Like,
no, I know exactly what you mean because you know there's there's things you can pick apart, and that's what happens with this recruiting, right? We start finding all these flaws, and it's a high school kid. You can get better, right? But to your point, the football IQ piece, I think you say he's not like super athletic. Well, that's relative to some of the freak athletes we see.
Yeah.
Right. It's not, he's obviously very athletic, right? But in the same way as like Mike Sainristil, who was, this wide receiver and then flips to corner, like obviously he's athletic because he can do both, but like nobody's like saying this was a middle 3-star recruit too, right? But the guy just, in terms of the work that he put in the film room, and then again, just his instincts made him a great football player. That's the vibe I get from Barney.
Yeah.
Not that he's not, I know exactly what you mean. I think everybody else does too. So,
yeah. But he's one that I haven't flip watched though. I think just looking at how volatile his recruitment's been so far and how fluid it's been, I don't think he can really, I mean, as much as recruits might say they're locked in, I think he'd be one to keep up in the air. But
yeah, I mean, Michigan has to recruit all their commits to the very end, right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
I used to say until they sign, but even that technically with the new rules is different. But until they get on campus, whatever, right? His commitment video was pretty awesome because
did you see the whole like setup they had?
That's what I'm saying is they leave the camera, so we don't actually see any of it happening, and then the video gets posted after. And the garage,
and it was like a really nice setup.
It was awesome. Yeah, it was kind of a bummer that it didn't get shown because it was actually one of the cooler setups I've seen for a commitment. So I hope he sticks, obviously. And we're not saying like, but
no.
But yeah, when a guy's flipped like he has, you're just thinking he might. Not that he might, but just somebody to watch. But we'd say that with any of them, right?
Exactly.
One guy pretty locked in at wide receiver, and I think some folks were distracted a little bit. We'll talk about Calvin Russell. They were distracted a little bit by the Calvin Russell part, and Zion Robinson commits, or I keep mixing this up, and Travis Johnson. There we go. I keep getting the Johnson and Robinson mixed up for some reason. Travis Johnson commits, and people are like thinking Calvin, and now they go back and they're actually watching this tape, and they're like, oh, I actually really like this kid. Yeah, Travis Johnson is a really, really good receiver. We had posted leading up to the Russell commitment, kind of said afterward as well. And I know EJ Holland, our partner over at the Wolverines, been on this train for a while too, that Johnson's the better wide receiver right now, right? Better route running. Russell has the higher ceiling with some of his size and stuff like that. But Johnson looks like a guy that could come in and contribute early. And people are really, really excited. You talk about an athlete. This is another guy that plays basketball as well and just makes a lot of incredible plays in the football field.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to find a weakness in this game, really, when you look at it. I mean, I reported him the other day, and I was scouring through his film from his freshman, sophomore, and junior seasons, and I mean, it's hard to find a weakness in this game, really. He's such a well-rounded player. And as EJ was talking about, they're recruiting him as the wide receiver 1, and I think rightfully so. He has that kind of upside. Well, not upside. I mean, established skill set, I think. Yeah. I think like you look at like Calvin Russell and Zion Robinson, that's upside. But I think you see the traits already with Travis Johnson. He's got that route running ability and he's got that skill set. But I mean, I'm here to talk about recruiting. I think his recruitment, I think it was always pointing towards Michigan, right? I mean, I think there were a couple of picks of Penn State after his official visit there, but he was waiting out for that Michigan visit. Not to get into it too much, obviously, but there was some NIL things they're just waiting to sort out, just waiting to check it out, as with any recruit. I mean, any recruiter who says that they're not focused on NIL is just lying. I think everyone's got some consideration for NIL, but I think he's a Michigan guy, right? He loves the program. His family loves the program.
So if you're not following his dad on Twitter, that is a big time Michigan and Travis Johnson fan, obviously.
Yeah.
But
yeah, they're a football family. I mean, his brother was, I think, somewhat considered as a transfer by Michigan. I'm not sure to what extent, but he left West Virginia recently. I'm not sure where he's at now. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a great pickup. Underrated because of Calvin Russell, obviously, and the fanfare that went on with that. But yeah, I can't speak really any more positively on Travis Johnson. Really, he's such a good person. I think, really.
I apologize. Those watching, you're going to see me swatting. My son left our back door open for about an hour without us noting yesterday, and I've got flies that I'm hunting down. So there's one in here right now bugging me. But anyway, yes, I
That
think
potential.
what?
One in here bugging me.
Oh yeah. I've got Johnson as obviously, the wide receiver, in that X role potentially, but he's a little bit more versatile. He's not your 6'5", 230 big target that's just gonna, do work on the sideline in the intermediate. He can come across the middle, and he's got the speed to get upfield, whether it's on a dig route and turning or on a crosser route with some speed built up. He's got the tools within the route tree to be a really dynamic weapon, the kind of player
Yeah.
Michigan's been looking for. And at that 6'3", 6'4" size, right? They're not going at a lot of college football is kind of caught up to this, that you don't need the smaller guys to be speedy. What if I find a guy who's 6'4" and speedy? Oh, what an idea. So Michigan's got on that train, and I'm really excited about his potential coming in. And I'm glad some fans are kind of starting to circle back now that the Russell dust has settled and realized like what a really good prospect he is. And again, I don't know if it's just because of how good these commits have been that are rolling in. Like we talk about him like he's in the 600s or something. It's a top 150
Oh yeah,
kid.
exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
He's like the 10th receiver in the class or something like that. Like
yeah, and I mean he could easily be higher too. Realistically,
sure.
like you look at his film, and I think he just gets kind of overlooked. I think we take for granted how many commits Michigan just got. And I mean you look at Texas like they're in like a slump or whatever. Whereas Michigan, we're out here like a couple weeks, like a couple months ago, everyone was complaining about, oh, we're not going to get any commits this cycle. We're going to be bottom, like not even in the top 10. And I look at Travis Johnson, one of the top wide receiver commits, and everyone's forgotten about him. Yeah.
Tell me more about these 5 stars. Yeah. So obviously, I mean, we've touched on it a couple times. Calvin Russell ends up picking Syracuse. You had put a prediction in that would pick Michigan. Again, I've talked about this before. Like we put in predictions when there's intel. This was one that nobody else put in at the very end because he was holding it until the very end. So like you didn't see he requested a graphic. I know where he's going now. Here's my prediction, right? We didn't see a flood of that. You and I were talking about before we came on. I don't really know how to discuss this without, because if he commits, obviously we can lay out all the intel we had and it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Now that he doesn't, we start sharing stuff, and I don't want to come across like bashing the kid, right, for changing his mind or some of the things he might have done or said leading up to it. Wilt Fong has had some reporting on this as well. Like it's out there. It is what it is. Kid picks Syracuse. Some Michigan fan reactions too. It's like Fran Brown's a really good coach. He's a really good recruiter. Syracuse threw the ball a ton last year. They had 3 receivers, I think, with over 900 yards receiving, right? So if you want to look at it from a football standpoint, like I know Michigan, oh my gosh, right? But like what we're selling, or what Michigan, sorry, I hate when I do the we thing. What Michigan is selling is a vision for what the passing game is going to be. Syracuse already showed it on the field last year. That's something they have in their back pocket. It's a benefit, right? So anyway, Russell picked Syracuse. To your point, Johnson was kind of pegged as the wide receiver 1. They were only going to take 3 receivers in this class. Obviously, they were willing to go to 4 for Russell. Do you think with the board resetting, there's another wide receiver target they're still going to consider maybe going to 4? Is the door closed on Calvin Russell, or are they just happy with the 3 they've got and, hey, we took a shot and it didn't work out?
I don't think the door is closed, but I'd say it's ajar. I think there's
Yeah.
they're leaving the potential open for a 5-star. I mean, at various stages they've had interest in Tristan Keys, Chris Henry Jr., Tyreek King, who's a pretty high upside kid who's committed to Tennessee. They've had mutual interest there. So I think that as with Calvin Russell, I don't think that he was not like a planned target or anything. That one was kind of an opportunity that arose. I think particularly with Brady Smeagol committing.
Right.
We discussed the relationship there, the in-state in-state relationship with his agent. But I think the door's not closed on Calvin Russell either. I think maybe contrasting views a little bit between the Michigan fan base and reporting, but I think the door isn't completely closed there. Because I mean, if Bryce Underwood did a really impressive job in his official visit, from all accounts, and if he goes out and throws up some historical freshman season numbers, or even just solid freshman numbers, and Syracuse drops the ball this year, Michigan will be in it for his flip. Honestly, I think if I was to put in any prediction for where he'd land, I think it'd be Miami.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they're going to keep pushing for him the hardest, and I don't see them not winning out there. But that's besides the point. But yeah, I think it. Yeah, I don't really know what to say.
I know.
Yeah.
It. I'm gonna take a phrase from Josh. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Right. You know, with a lot of these recruitments, like we talk about NIL, and I know it's always just pick the money. I can't stand when people say that because, like, of course it's a factor. These kids are getting paid.
Yeah.
You would do the same thing. And a lot of times, honestly, it's about getting in the neighborhood, right? Comparable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, you have a little bit more, you have a little bit more, whatever. It's, hey, if we can get these offers comparable, what other things can you offer? So, like in the case of Syracuse, it's probably early playing time, the offense, and the basketball element of it. We know Dusty May was involved. We know he had a spot on the basketball team if you wanted it. I don't think that's the same thing as probably playing starting potential at Syracuse. That just wasn't going to happen at Michigan, right? So there were other pieces to it. And again, the stuff leading up to it, I don't know. We've shared a lot of it inside the den. So for our members, Maize Blue review, you can go over there and access some of the intel we've shared. If you are not a member yet, go to on3.com, Maize Blue review. You can sign up for $1 to try us for a week before the rate kicks in for the rest of the year. You can also do monthly as well. But you get access to all Michigan premium content. You get access to everything college sports with On3. You get access to everything high school sports and recruiting with Rivals. And you get access to our message board and all our premium content. Pretty incredible deal now with the coalition, I guess we'll say, with On3 and Rivals. So we have
what I will say on Russell is his best relationship was with Fran Brown. So
yeah, he's made that clear.
Yeah. That was an important factor. I don't think that can be overlooked, but we'll move on.
For sure.
If you want to.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Yeah, and again, Fran Brown, for those who don't know, he was hired at Syracuse because he was one of the best recruiters in the country for quite a few years and won some big time SEC recruitments. Like, he's no slouch, and they have new facilities and whatever. So,
I mean, they won Victor Singleton. What was it earlier this cycle?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he ended up.
Where is he now? I feel like
he did Texas A&M, but
okay.
I mean, he's another one. I feel like he's on the board still for Michigan.
That's a funny one.
Besides the point,
we'll make a little segue there because what's up, Antoine? I'll get to Antoine's got a couple questions too. We'll touch on it a little bit, but we talked about obviously Barney committing. You just brought up Singleton, a name from the past as well, but there's a couple commitments coming up. Well, one coming up and one flip candidate that we've been talking about. Actually, I guess there's two flip candidates now with the Baylor commit, Jordan Deck. We were kind of surprised how quick that moved to Baylor, and he's definitely not off the board for Michigan. But obviously the name everybody's been thinking about, Devon Benjamin. We've talked about him a couple times as well. The Oregon has been viewed as a heavy lean for a long time. He has a commitment date out there. There's some interesting info about him maybe moving up his commitment. Who would that be beneficial for? I think both sides have kind of reported it would be beneficial for them, so it's kind of interesting. But where do you think things stand right now with Benjamin? Is it Oregon still the lock view? Is Michigan in it? Is there another school? I know Washington had been mentioned in the past, but where do you think that recruitment stands with, 2 or 3 weeks to go before he potentially commits?
I don't think I could say that Michigan has the lead right now. I think that'd be a bit of jumping the gun a little bit. But they've got some significant momentum. Coming out of that May 30th official visit, I kind of wrote him off a little bit. I think a lot of people did, because the vibes that weekend. I mean, we talked about the vibes on Victor's weekend. I'd say it was quite the opposite. Over the weekend of May 30th. But yeah, they've done a good job there. That one was kind of surprising. I think over the last couple of weeks, I've started hearing some intel that that things have started to open up a little bit more in his recruitment. I don't know which other schools are in it. I think based on the intel that I received, I wouldn't be surprised if like a Texas or a Washington, as you say, came in and made a push there and was able to secure his commitment. But I think Oregon still has the lead at the moment. But yeah, Michigan's sort of in an interesting position there. The date that I had was August 2nd.
Yeah.
I think, as you said, there's been some reports that it might be getting pushed up. I don't really know who that benefit, to be honest. Because I think he's been to Oregon the most, so I feel like he'd know the most about them. So I think that couldn't benefit them. I mean, it would benefit them if it got moved up, because the more visits he takes, surely
You would
you
think
can look at it
there.
anyway.
Well, and I think some of the thought from the Michigan side was tied to Donovan Webb and that timeline,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
People were thinking, okay, well, if Webb's trending away at the last second, or Michigan feels good about Benjamin, him moving up his commitment after missing on him, that would make sense. There's
Yeah.
a thought there that Michigan's pushing for an earlier commitment, and now with Deuce Gerald's announcing his commitment date as well,
Yeah.
I think it's easy for folks to connect the dots and be like, well, Oregon's looking for a slam dunk there with those two going back to back and having their commitment dates. And he was another too that we thought might commit sooner rather than later. So it's an interesting piece there. Benjamin, that's one of the guys, like, I get very interested. I don't know what word I
Yeah.
want to use. But like, you see this kid's tape and go, oh my God, what a fit he would be. Right.
Oh, far
He's
out.
he's a Jabril Peppers kind of swagger to the way he plays
Yeah.
and hits, and incredible playing back at safety. Just awesome football player. Would be really good in this defense. West Coast kid, not shocked that he's got the attraction to Oregon. It would be a tough pull. But when that recruitment started feeling like it was like heavy Michigan momentum, and then it was kind of like, maybe this is still going to stay Oregon. We started hearing about Dunigan again, the current Kansas commit, and same kind of thing where it was like people are like, oh, I guess we're going after this Kansas kid now. No, this is a really, really good prospect. He's from Kansas. He actually lives in Manhattan. I believe his dad is a Kansas State alum. So he lives in Kansas, kind of stayed home. That feels like a recruitment where if Michigan really wants it, he could flip, right? He might be a better wide receiver. It's crazy. You want to talk about a good athlete. This guy can play on both sides of the ball. I think Michigan might be interested in him potentially doing that. He's a guy that could come in and contribute on special teams right away. A little bit different style safety. He's that bigger free safety, maybe the single high kind of guy. But what are you hearing?
They need that though.
Exactly. I don't.
Yeah.
I guess what I was getting at, tell me what you were hearing on the recruitment, but I think part of what I was getting at is I don't think he replaces a potential Benjamin or a potential flip of a Deck. I think he's a completely different player.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. I think he had some stuff on that too, but I'll go into it. But he yeah, they need a player like him. I think they're missing Chase Calicut. He was a big safety they were targeting. Um, they didn't get a big safety last cycle. Cannell Winston, Jordan Young both kind of look like nickels to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, you look at Devon Benjamin. I mean, he could be anything. I mean, he could be like a first round type nickel if you wanted him to be, or just like an elite safety. I mean, I think he's a first round pick in the making, surely, wherever he ends up. But Dunigan's an interesting one. I mean, I think people kind of got the misconception that with CJ Sadler's recruitment that Michigan wasn't really targeting a two-way type player. But I think that one was a bit different because Sadler's like what 5'9", and doesn't really fit the bill for a Michigan cornerback. But Dunigan is 6'2", 190. He looks like he could fill in the frame a bit more if he wanted to.
Agreed.
I think there's room to grow. I think as well. I think he's pretty young. I might be wrong, but I think he was pretty young. But Kansas has made him a massive priority, which I think somewhat reflects how his standing as a recruit. I mean, I think he's got some decent offers as well.
Yeah, it's not just Michigan
insane.
that's looking at him. Like
No.
Michigan's gonna have to win a battle here if they want him to flip.
Yeah,
But
he's got Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Florida. Yeah, sorry, you go on. Yeah.
No. Sorry, you're just making me think a couple things, and I naturally interrupt people. I apologize. But
Yeah, no, you're good.
The Kansas priority is important, right? I don't want people, again, back to the NIL conversation. The kid knows his value, right? And it's not like he's at Kansas, so he can just throw a little money at him. That's not true. Like, he's been made a priority. He's got good NIL offers out there. He's a good football player. So this isn't somebody Michigan can just go and steal.
No.
I do think Michigan has the capability to give the type of offer it would take to get him, right? We've talked about that. And then, yeah, at this point, you always get nervous when flip conversations get out there early. I think Michigan likes moving kind of in secret, because now if you're listening to Michigan, you're going to listen to me too, right? So I'm sure he's fielding well, not yet, but he's going to be fielding a ton of calls, and his recruitment will get interesting. And man, I don't know, because I feel like Michigan would like to get that figured out early. And he's one that could bleed into the season a little bit, because he's kind of starting over in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I really like his film. I know you do.
Yes.
I don't know what his visits were interesting. He's only kind of been at Kansas over the last year. Kansas State as well. Nebraska a couple of times. Kansas, Oklahoma once. But I think Michigan, as you say, could push there and win a commitment. I think, as you say, I think Kansas has made him a priority. But Michigan can get in that range, as you talk about. It's kind of important about getting into that range. And then realistically, like, there aren't many programs that can match up with Michigan for a defensive recruit if every program has the same NIL for a kid, right? Because there's, like, look at how many defensive linemen and cornerbacks and linebackers they produce on a year-to-year basis. I mean, it's pretty unreal. But yeah, I think they can win out there. You touched on Jordan Tech. I think the Wolverine had a report out that Michigan was still monitoring that. That was always my expectation. He said that he was always going to continue considering Michigan. I don't think that was particularly massive news that he came out as a flip target. From my opinion, I feel like that one was always going to come back around because he was a priority for them. I mean, he's 3-star recruit, but I mean, I think that's pretty meaningless to Michigan.
His tape is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's probably, for me, I mean, I know he's not a Michigan commit, so this probably isn't the same comparison, but there's always these guys every cycle where I'm like, what am I missing here? Because you played a good program, you have a really good offer list, and I like your tape. I don't get the recruiting ranking. He's very Jalen Pyle on the defensive end for me.
Like, I was about to say that.
Yeah, I watched his tape and I'm like, what am I missing here? You know?
Yeah. I think it's just those, like, measurables that make people stick out. Like, I think he's got top 10 safety film, realistically. I mean, if you watch it over, it's pretty elite. I mean, Baylor's a good score and they made him a priority, but as I say, they're not Michigan level for a defensive prospect. And they made him, as I said, they made him a massive priority. Like, they got the last official visit, they closed it out. I don't think Michigan was expecting them to close it out that rapidly. I think they were kind of thinking it would drag out a little bit and they wouldn't have to push as hard at the time. I don't think I got the vibe they didn't make him like the top priority during his official visit, because I mean, he came in on June 6th. I think that was the Mikael Blade weekend. And they had a couple of other big time prospects over that weekend. And you can't prioritize everyone. Well, I mean, look at Victor's weekend; they did a pretty good job, but
sure,
that was a bit of a different circumstance with that whole defensive line group kind of recruiting each other, really. But yeah, I think Jordan Deck's one that they can win out for. Dunigan, as you talk about, is probably one they can win out for. Webb was an interesting one. He was kind of being recruited as a nickel. I got the vibe they could have gotten him if they wanted to. I think that Texas Tech maybe was I'm not going to go into the NIL probably, but I think they were in the range that Michigan was in, and kind of closed it out. But yeah,
look, Texas Tech is getting late night flips on offensive linemen from Texas, right? Like, they're not messing around. Yeah, the Ojo is one of the craziest recruitments I can think of.
And then his agent comes out and says it straight away.
Wild.
I don't understand why you do that. Like, and then OJ says, "Oh, it's a new era." Like, he's commenting under, like, people's posts saying it's a new era of recruiting. Like,
yeah,
I mean, and what they got, like, a 5-star prediction for 2027.
Yeah,
like, top 5 recruit.
I'd say either the top edge or one of the top edges in next year's class.
Far out.
Yeah,
I mean, that's insane. I mean, people are talking
about. That's what I love about this NIL era, man. Like, all
I
it takes
liked it.
Yes, it takes one alumni right? And again, we'll see how this works with the NIL clearinghouse and all of that stuff. Like we've talked about
Yeah.
that forever, right? Like there's still got to be this business partnership there, but and there's been a lot of talk about the front loading of deals and the way teams are obviously, whatever you do with recruiting in terms of rules and wherever you push the line, we've seen it every single time. Teams are going to jump over it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's just that's never going to stop. So
I mean, Texas Tech is going to be good this year too. Like they've got like
they have some
David
good
Bailey, I think, from
transfers.
Stanford or who it was. Like they're going to be a good team. I have to start to plan getting off track, but
Sorry, yeah.
yeah, you're good. I was just thinking about it. I mean, it's just crazy that happens. But anyways, I think moving forward, they've got a lot more. I think there's a lot less on the board. What was it? Antoine talks about nose tackle.
Yeah, I think nose tackle and linebacker has been a pretty common conversation amongst the fan base. We talked about this as well. And honestly, Antoine, it kind of ties into your Ohio State recruiting question as well. A lot of it's just strategy, right? Just roster building strategy in terms of where Michigan is putting their NIL resources and where they feel like they need to land the big time recruits and where maybe they feel like they can fill gaps with the portal and maybe where they feel good about current players versus where they see future gaps, right? Some of it's just strategy, right? So linebacker is interesting. Obviously, there's a couple names coming up there as well. And then I don't know, after Deuce, the nose tackle is
I don't think they're that high in Ben Bulwer. I don't know what else is on the board. I think they could have pushed and gotten his commitment quite easily. They didn't. I don't think he's gonna end up in the class. I think that relationship kind of tarnished a little bit from the vibe I got just because they didn't push there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the expectation that he was gonna come out with a commitment. But Deuce is an interesting one. I kind of got the vibe from a lot of people that going into like even coming out of this month that coming out of June that he was a lock for Oregon. And then over the past couple of weeks, I think Michigan's kind of trending there. His coaches have said that they thought that he was kind of that after some consideration and a few more talks, like I think he had a couple of Zoom calls with the strength and conditioning staff. He's spoken to Luis Bacedo since he's been on campus. And I think he's kind of the last I heard that he hadn't come to a full decision. And that Michigan was still very much in the mix was the phrasing I got. So that one will be interesting. And then just touching on defensive back, just that I forgot to talk about was Blake Stewart's not off the board yet. They're still pushing there. Clemson's in a good position. I was somewhat surprised that he didn't commit coming out of his May 30th official visit there. Just considering how well that is. But the fact that it's dragging out a little bit longer will bode well for Michigan, I think. And there's still a chance there. I think in all likelihood, he ends up a Tiger, but I wouldn't completely rule Michigan out there because they're still pushing.
That's a name I forgot about, to be frank.
Yeah, so did I.
I liked him a lot early in the process, and then things just really picked up with Victor's weekend, and it was kind of a blur. Yeah, I think defensive back, there's enough names where it's like, hey, I know what your top targets are, but I can see where this is going, and if I put this and this together, I'm happy with the class.
Avon Finney's the top guy, though. I mean,
trying to flip him.
There.
No, trying to flip
They
him.
pushed so hard for an official visit, from what I heard, and it was really, really close. And
I don't know what Brian Kelly did to Sharon Moore, but
they're going after all of that.
Oh, I mean, well,
Elijah Hayden,
top quarterback. I was just gonna say, top quarterback targets him and Ziegler both in LSU's backyard.
Yeah,
so
I think Ziegler he's my strong lock. I think he's going to be the one to commit to Michigan.
Yeah,
potentially over the next couple of months.
We just watched tape. I don't know if it was last night or 2 nights ago of Ziegler and Haven, and I get it with
Haven's action's kind of finny. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, he looks like a grown man playing with middle school kids.
Yeah,
right? He is massive, but you can tell Ziegler plays baseball. I really like his throwing motion.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
He's smooth. I like again, we're watching highlights. This isn't the same thing as like really breaking down film, right?
Exactly.
I understand that when you're watching a huddle, but my gut reaction and the folks I was watching with was I preferred Ziegler. And I think Michigan's going to be in a really good position because we were talking about this too. The optics of recruiting, especially in a state like Louisiana, they can't lose Haven. Just like Michigan losing a Dante Moore and losing a Bryce Underwood. Imagine that times 5, right? Because LSU fans know Haven's the kind of kid that's going to go to Alabama and they're going to be furious, right? So I almost wonder if the optics there push Haven as a top priority for LSU. And now Michigan leads for Haven on the Rivals prediction machine.
I don't think they're pushing as hard as they could either there.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting how that folds out. But yeah, I'm with you. I would probably lean towards Ziegler right now.
Have you seen Keegan Croucher's film as well? He's
that's
nice
another
too.
name out there. Yeah, Croucher's out there.
I mean, there's so many. There's a lot of they're hot, like Peter Bork as well. Trent
Peter Bork's another one.
There's a couple other names out there, but he's done an impressive job early there.
Yeah, and I mean, they've learned their lessons of the previous years, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Chip Lindsey's first month on the trail, he went out into, I think, 6 or 7 2027 QBs.
Yep. Well, and people got to remember, too, how quickly they had to move from having Carter Smith and Brady Hart to Bryce and now Brady. Like that's a tough thing to pull off there, right? Obviously, going after Bryce ultimately cost them Carter. They were having honest conversations there. They were willing to take both in the class. Carter ended up leaving. And then Hart initially says, hey, I'm on board. I want to learn from Bryce. I want to be in the same room. And then a week later is reclassing to Texas A&M, who we hadn't even visited yet.
I know he's going to be so good in a couple of years for them. I really like this film.
Yeah. So to circle back to Brady Smigel, I got to make sure I do that right. To circle back to him, who had initially basically lost to Brady. It felt like Michigan settled on Brady Hart and he goes Florida State. To circle back and get him in, and then now be in the position they are with the 27 recruits. And that's hard not to look ahead to 28. You got in-state Donald Tabron. Like they could go on a pretty amazing run here. And that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
You got to have an elite quarterback in every class.
and wide receivers too. I mean,
yeah.
The 2027 class is looking amazing, like all around.
Yeah, obviously another in-state target there with Dakota. You have to worry about Ohio State with him. But yeah, you can't really sleep. 27's already starting. They're trying to put the bow on this 26 class, and it's like there's some big names. And you just talked about Texas Tech getting a prediction for one of the top players in their class, so they're already kind of looking ahead in a little bit. So it's going to be. I don't
see how you could offer a massive NIL deal to a 2027 recruit. Like that's just like.
Now you mean?
I mean, yeah. Like I think clearly Texas Tech has done that.
Yeah. Again, it depends on your strategy and where you are as a program, right? We've talked about Michigan forever and the NIL conversations and how they play the long game with the relationship building, and the numbers are out there as potential, but those numbers don't get real solid till later in their recruitment. And some schools want to get you early and would rather have you in the fold and fight to keep you, right? And sometimes that means, and I'm not saying this is what happened here, right? But in some recruitments, they try to capitalize, especially on that official visit. And, something like Deck going to Baylor, you go on the visit. That's when you're feeling the best about a school, whatever. And a school will shoot their shot and try and get them to commit at that moment. And sometimes that means literally saying, here's our offer. It will never be bigger than this. It's only going to go down. Right. And they offer that big bag, and then they have the time to try and go find the money. Texas Tech's case, they know where the money's at. It's not hard to go find it.
Pete Nakos has been talking a lot about that recently. I've been seeing his reports. Like, a lot of it's not, like, accounted for money yet. Like, particularly with this rev sharing stuff. I think August 1st was the date that they were talking about that. They thought, like, a number of recruits could decommit after that. I mean, I'm not going to act like I know exactly what's going on because I haven't read all the reports or anything, but
I've stayed up on it as much as I can, but even that doesn't mean you know everything. But, talking to recruits and agents and then obviously current players, because the follow through on the back end is really, really important. Antoine brings it up about Michigan's strategy of waiting until teams spend all their NIL and attacking teams recruit when they run out of money at the end, right? I mean, Michigan's kind of done that for a while, right? They reset their fall board and there's flips. We saw an unbelievable amount of flips last cycle. I think it was 3 or 4 of the top 5 quarterbacks all flipped.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I still don't know if the house deal is going to make it less likely that there's flips or more likely. We still
It's hard
don't
to
know.
tell.
It is because we don't know
They're still
how.
not they're still not binding agreements.
Right. And you've got states passing their own legislation. There's talk of a federal bill now, and you've got schools that think they can circumvent it. You've got schools that don't even think they have to try to follow it. You've got a school like Michigan who's been really ahead of the game on it. And then we still don't know what that's going to look like. That first NIL decline coming out of is it Delaware? I don't know how to pronounce the third party. What that's going to look like and how a program is going to have to respond or screen. We don't know what any of that's going to look like yet. I hate that we have to get this complicated, even talking about recruiting, but taking that part of it out of it. I think Michigan's always excelled at that part, right? Because there are expectations going into a season. You hope as a Michigan fan that the offense looks better, the defense continues to be elite. Michigan's winning the games they're supposed to, are in some form of contention for the Big Ten, and 9-3, 10-2, looking at a playoff spot. Like that's the expectation, right? And that helps them keep the recruits they've already got and maybe help with the selling to other ones. Vice versa, there's other programs that maybe start to struggle and the coach is on a hot seat or rumored about taking this job or whatever. And now the school that somebody committed to in the spring isn't the same anymore. And those people obviously become available as flip candidates. But I think Michigan's really happy locking down who they have.
Yeah.
And then they'll have those couple guys they can take a shot on. I don't think it's going to be this massive strategy, especially with all the uncertainty we just talked about. Michigan seems really focused on Michigan right now.
Yeah.
We talked about some flip candidates like Dunigan and obviously Deck, but those are guys that they've had established relationships with.
Yeah. Like that, Deck is a long standing recruit.
For sure. Names always come out of nowhere, but I think this year will probably be less of that. That would be my guess.
Yeah, they're going to be like the names that we've heard about earlier in the cycle as well. I think they're pretty.
Yeah, you brought up like a Stewart. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, they'll use senior film evaluations, obviously. I mean, you look at Brad last year, like that was a new name. I mean, like Hayward's a 5-star recruit. I mean, everyone knows about him, but there'll be senior evaluations, and there'll always be new recruits that come out of the woodwork. But yeah. I think you're exactly right. I think it's gonna be they like their class a lot.
All right. Well, we could do this all day, so I think we'll call this a decent stopping point. Again, the intel has been constant and will continue flowing inside the Den. Maize Blue review. Everything from Rivals redirects now, but obviously on 3.com, Maize Blue review. Now there's the $1 promo to get you in for the first week to give us a shot. Talk with some of our subscribers, get a vibe on the community. Like I said, they're our biggest advocates. They're not all in there yet. This transition's been with the message board migration. We're still waiting on a few folks to get in with some login issues. But yeah, I said you couldn't find a better time to sign up with the amount of resources and content available to you as a Maize Blue review subscriber. Now's the time. Otherwise, if you're watching us here on YouTube, make sure you're liking, subscribing, throw in some comments as well. Let us know your thoughts on what we talked about or things you want us to talk about. Appreciate your feedback there. And then obviously notification bell. So when we go live, you know, when Dennis goes live, you know. And then if you're listening on podcast, whether it's Apple or whatever, we appreciate you there as well. Darbo, thank you so much for asking a question right in the middle of my sign off. Aidan, I think people love this.
I've been a Michigan fan. I think I've kind of been a Michigan fan my whole life. My auntie won the field hockey national championship in 2001. So I've kind of always been a Michigan fan. And then in 2023, I went to Ann Arbor for the delayed 20th anniversary of it, 20-year anniversary. And like we went on the field for the Rutgers game and stuff, and spent a bit of time in Ann Arbor because she had friends that lives around there from the team, and I became a bit enamored by the program and the idea of because we don't really get that like college vibe in Australia. I think that don't really like have that kind of community as much. Well, just for a variety of reasons in Australia, so it's pretty cool.
It's just school.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I really like the program, so stuck with it.
when I became a Michigan fan, you were like -16. So, Justin, good job, guys. Great show. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you so much. All right. Hoping we will be back our usual time, Wednesday at 10. Again, I know we try to be as consistent as we can. Appreciate you guys. It's been kind of a weird week. If not, like I said, damn you old. Thank you, Darbo. Not as old as your dad was. Darbo's dad was so old. He's got an old dad. Little inside joke there. Anyway, we'll be back. Like I said, hopefully Wednesday. Head over to MaizeBlueReview.com. Get the content there. Thanks again. I'll say for Aidan. Appreciate you guys. See you soon.